Hey folks, patch 9.2 will be coming out in a few days, and I'm sure many of you are anxious about having to figure out exactly what to do when the servers go live. Hell, I've been testing the PTR for over a month, and I'm still anxious that I'll do something wrong on the first day. In order to make it easier to get yourself established in Zereth Mortis, I've put together this short guide which will go into detail on everything important that you should be doing on the first day of the patch. I do want to give a quick disclaimer though. I'm not necessarily saying that you absolutely need to follow this guide on day one or you risk falling behind. Ultimately, it's a game, we're all playing it to have fun, and everybody has their own priorities and their own idea on what they personally find fun. For me, I love Mythic raid progression, so this guide is going to be primarily geared towards helping you maximize your efficiency in preparing for the release of Sepulchre or the first ones. I'd like to think that it'll still contain useful information for everybody, but admittedly, some of these steps only really matter if you're really looking to min-max for raiding. With that out of the way, let's get into the guide. The absolute first thing that you'll need to do when you begin playing patch 9.2 is the Zereth Mortis campaign. This is required content for pretty much all players, as without it you're unable to unlock flying or your second legendary. On week 1, however, we'll only have access to the first 3 chapters, and you'll start chapter 1 within Oribos. Because of this, I'd recommend logging out within this main Covenant room the night before the patch goes live, as it'll allow you to start the campaign as soon as possible. From here, you're going to be following the campaign for roughly 10 minutes until you unlock the teleporter that connects Oribos and Zereth Mortis. While I let the campaign footage play in the background, I want to take a moment to discuss what our goals actually are in patch 9.2. Not the story goals, mind you, that's just some asshole garbage about the jailer ending reality. I'm talking about our goals as raiders. What are we actually looking to get out of this new zone which will help us in the upcoming raid? The main reward is one that I've already mentioned, your second legendary, and you'll unlock this on the 5th week of the patch after completing chapter 7 of the Zereth Mortis campaign. However, the reward that you'll get from this is a 265 belt with predetermined secondary stats which can't be upgraded at all. In order to craft your own version of the second legendary, which can go up to 291 item level, you'll need to purchase the Memory of Unity, which requires revered reputation from the Enlightened faction. As such, the primary objective for any raider in patch 9.2 should be to maximize their reputation gain with the Enlightened, as you'll need to reach Revered by the start of week 5 in order to obtain your second legendary as soon as possible. If you happen to be in a guild that doesn't raid until the weekends, this means that you'll have a few extra days with which you can farm rep. However, my guild raids on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and from what I know, the vast majority of other guilds also raid on Tuesday, so if you're in this group of people, then you have exactly 29 days to reach Revered. This process is easier said than done though, as completing every single possible daily activity will just barely give you enough reputation to reach Revered in 29 days. This is also assuming that you don't miss any activities on any of those 29 days, so it might be a daunting task if you have a volatile schedule. I'm currently working on a detailed reputation guide which should come out on Tuesday morning, but the entire reason that I made this video is because taking the wrong steps on day 1 of the patch can absolutely cripple you in the long run. Now that I've explained why this information is so important, we can get back to the day 1 experience. As you can see here, my character has just completed the first chapter of the Zereth Mortis campaign and unlocked the primary town, Haven. I'd recommend setting your Hearthstone here as it can save you a bit of time, but this is a completely optional step. From here, you have a few different options. You can continue with chapter 2 of the campaign, you can complete side quests, or you can explore and kill rares. Personally, I recommend completely ignoring the side quest lines for the entirety of week 1, as they don't offer any special rewards, and assuming you're prioritizing reputation, you can wait a week to line them up with the Darkman Fair buff. As for rares, while they are important, I personally believe that it's more important to complete the campaign as soon as possible, for reasons that I'll get into later. The only 2 rares that I would recommend killing if you see them up are Vexus, which can be found a bit northeast of Haven, and Serranos, which is just south of the Oribos portal. Their proximity to the main hub will likely mean that they'll be killed extremely quickly, especially during the first week, so it's important to kill them as soon as you see them. The rest of the rares can wait though, because finishing the campaign is more important. As you continue through the second chapter of the Zereth Mortis campaign, you'll likely come across a few treasures. I highly recommend that you do not open these. In patch 9.2, treasures are by far the best way to obtain a material called Progenitor Essentia, which is one of the ingredients required to create 291 item level legendaries. While some of these treasures are repeatable, many of them are one-time only, and there's a buff that we'll discuss later on which improves your chances of obtaining a Progenitor Essentia upon opening chests. Since these materials are incredibly rare, you'll want to make sure that you maximize your chances at actually getting one. If you're a crafter, you'll obviously want to make sure that you get these to make your own 291 legendary, but even if you aren't a crafter, you can still sell these on the auction house for what will likely be a sizable chunk of gold, and that will make affording your own 291 legendary much easier. If you're curious to know which chests are safe to open and which aren't, you can check out my treasure guide in the description. Otherwise though, I'd recommend playing it safe and holding off from opening any treasures within the first few hours. From here, it's best to just power through the remainder of Chapter 2 and then continue along with Chapter 3. While doing this questline, you might encounter a few different rares, but you should only take detours for the Engulfer, Tethos, Chitali the Eldest, or Rixal, or Helmix. If you see a rare that I didn't just mention, such as Corrupted Architect, you can safely ignore it, as they all have really short respawn timers. Now that we're reaching the end of Chapter 3, I can explain why I've been telling you to speed through the campaign and ignore distractions like rare mobs or treasures. Right before the end of Chapter 3, you'll unlock access to the Cyphers of the First One's research console, which you can find in Exile's Hollow. Contrary to what a ton of guides are saying, this is not an optional system, or at least not in the way that you might expect it to be. Many people are saying that the Cyphers system doesn't grant any direct player power, and while that's technically true, it is required to access a bonus world quest, a bonus daily quest, and 3 one-time only treasures. Additionally, one of the abilities you can research is the buff I was talking about earlier, which increases your chances of obtaining Progenitor Essentia from chests and gathering nodes. Unfortunately, Blizzard also decided it would be a good idea to heavily time-gate the research, with some of them requiring as long as 5 days and 18 hours to complete. While you can safely ignore most of the things on this research tree, you will need to start researching Casual Understanding ASAP, as it only takes 1 hour and unlocks access to the 3rd world quest, which provides an additional 125 rep every single day. Additionally, the free currency given to you by the unlock quest will allow you to begin researching the technology Aelic Understanding, which takes another 18 hours to complete. This technology doesn't directly unlock anything important, but it will allow you to research Dialic Understanding and Altonian Understanding, which will take 4 and 6 days to complete, respectively. Altonian Understanding will provide you with access to a 3rd daily quest, and while it's not 100% guaranteed, each daily quest has a chance to provide you with a rep token that gives 75 Enlightened reputation as its reward. Obviously, the sooner you get access to this, the more chances you'll have at obtaining bonus rep tokens, so it's nice to get it as early as possible. As for Dialic Understanding, it also doesn't directly unlock anything, but it's required to research Sopranian Understanding and Corial, which will both unlock a combined total of 3 treasures. Lastly, the Creation Tech is unlocked from the start, and will give you access to the Progenitor Essentia buff that we previously talked about, but it has no research time requirement, so it's not as important. Now, I just dumped a lot of information on you, so I'm going to stop and give a quick TLDR. When you finish Chapter 3, you will get 120 currency as a reward. You'll want to spend this on Casual Understanding and Aelic Understanding. While you could spend the rest of this on the Progenitor Essentia drop rate tech, you're going to want to save it for now, as upon researching Aelic Understanding, you'll basically have 18 hours to farm a total of 360 total currency in order to begin researching both Dialic Understanding and Altonian Understanding as soon as possible. Once you begin researching those techs, you can safely spend the remaining 25 currency on the Progenitor Essentia tech, which will allow you to finally start opening treasures. Also, in case it wasn't obvious, the design of this system does mean you'll want to log in the moment the 18-hour research time is finished, so that you can instantly start the next research. Yes, this does suck, and obviously you don't need to do it, but you're basically forced to unless you want to wait an additional day or more. That said, Blizzard did mention that the WoW Companion app will be updated to include the Cypher research, so you could always just do it that way. Now that we've finally finished discussing Blizzard's latest abomination of a system, we can talk about the other thing you unlock after completing Chapter 3, which is World Quests. Obviously, you'll be able to complete only 2 of these at first, but after 1 hour, the 3rd one should just appear on your map. Before you do anything else though, you're going to want to return to Haven and pick up the quest Patterns Within Patterns from Bolvar. This quest will be available every 3 days, so you'll want to make sure to complete it whenever you get the chance. If you played patch 9.1, you'll recognize this as the equivalent to Shaping Fate, with the only difference being that you can complete it multiple times per week. Every activity that you complete within Zereth Mortis, be it a world quest, daily quest, rare mob, or treasure, will award you with a small percentage which counts towards completing the quest. And now, you can finally go out and finish the remaining world quests and daily quests. Even though the dailies don't always give rep, they're still worth completing as they will always award some Cosmic Flux in Cyphers currency, both of which you'll need to stock up on. Once all 3 of your world quests and both of your dailies have been completed, you're free to roam around the zone and kill rare mobs or begin working on your ults. While they aren't necessarily required to reach Revered in time, rares do provide a small amount of rep, so they can be a nice supplement to your normal activities. If you do plan on spending a lot of time hunting down rares, I'd recommend checking out my guide in the description, which provides details on every single rare that you can find within Zereth Mortis.